This is ACOFAE. Laura Marie and Jessica Marie proudly present A Court of Fandoms and Exploration, a podcast. Fair warning, everything the hosts say is explicit, full of spoilers and adult content and shall not be used against them. They have opinions. Let's try not to drag anyone for expressing themselves and just have fun for an hour. We all deserve it.
This book contains spoilers from the Shadowhunters world and Queen of Shadows with mentions of supernatural. There are also discussions surrounding toxic parents, miscarriage, and alcoholism.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to A Court of Fandoms and Exploration, your weekly deep dive into the YA literature and fandoms that we love. I'm Laura Marie.
And I'm Jessica Marie.
And today we are discussing Chain of Gold, Book 1 in the Last Hours series by Cassandra Clare. And Jessica Marie, we are starting off ready. We are ready to go. I want to talk about, before we talk about this book, I want to talk about the order that I basically forced you to read these series, this book series in. Do you now see, having read just this first book, why we read in the order that we did?
Yes, I understand that people could read it in other ways, but this one, if you're looking for an emotional impact, this, I don't know, everything you guide me towards, I'm like, this is the only way.
Well, because I just bring this up because we are almost done with like the established like Shadowhunters world. I know, but it has to be said. The Last Hours series is complete. And then from here, we would move on to Secrets of Blackthorn Manor. Now, we did not and have not read Secrets of Blackthorn Manor, any of it, because this book series, The Last Hours, establishes a lot of Blackthorn Manor and what is going on, and we have a lot of James being there. So I could not, in good faith, send you in that direction when there is just so much spoiler potential for you. So,
which is wild because we know that Blackthorn Manor is complete, but Chain of the third book, Chain of something. Iron? No. Whatever the third book is in the Last Hours, it came out this year in January 2023 or like February, earlier this year. So the fact that that was completed before the third book would have thrown everybody off, no?
We will not discuss it. We will not discuss it here.
That is way ahead of everything.
That discussion is for another time. That is for when we are in a puddle over the Secrets of Blackthorn Manor. We are, though, now in I don't know, clenched fists over this book right here. This book has there's a lot of criticisms of this book. This book has and we will get to those. But one of them is that it has so many fucking characters.
It does. And we've met most of them.
We have met almost all of them. And that was something else that I did deliberately for you, is like slowly introduce you through Shadowhunter Academy and then again through like the Bane Chronicles, and Ghost of the Shadow Market, slowly introduce you to members of the Merry Thieves. Because I do remember being like, who the fuck are all these boys? Who are all these boys? What is going on? Like, who is Thomas?
I was looking at one of my notes I sent you, and I was like, ooh, Thomas and Lucy are going to be a thing. And then when I reread the notes today, before we started recording, I was like, they're cousins. No, they're not. Because there's so many people. I had to remember. I was like, I need a family tree, but then you cautioned. You were like, come to me because you're going to start spoiling things for yourself. And you are my expert, so I go to you.
Well, and you asked for a family tree, and I gave you one, and it was heavily edited.
It was, because I was like, I wanted a specific family tree, and you were probably like, oh, she has no idea that person's going to die, but okay.
I was like, here you go.
And I was like, oop, once I got to the part where that character died, I was like, that question was so moot. Like, why didn't you tell me?
You have to do these things on your own. That's part of the joy. Because I told you that at some parts I was like kicking and screaming, and you were like, this tells me nothing. And it did tell you nothing because I was kicking and screaming at like the vagueness of your notes. And that, you know, I sent that to you because it could be interpreted anyway. And it was absolutely perfect. But while we are talking about all the characters of this book, Jess, tell me who they are, because there's fuck all so many.
Well, I don't even know where to start. I'm just going to just like name drop with some of the ones that we know, love, past, present, and future. We have Magnus Bane is back. We have Will and Tessa Herondale, Will's sister Ceci, Gabriel, Gideon. We have mentions of Ragnar Fell. We even see him. We have Malcolm Fade. We do not like him. I want to say everybody's back because we've met them. So I'll keep going into it. We have our female main character, more or less, Cordelia Carstairs. She is Jem's cousin, and she is also the one who wields Cortana. We know Cortana from Emma Carstairs from the Dark Artifices. We have our Merry Thieves, which are James Herondale. He's obviously Will and Tessa's son. And the male main character, you have Matthew Fairchild, who is Charlotte and Henry's son, and the parabatai of Will. We also have
James.
Thomas and... Oh, sorry. Yes. Well, I'm going to be saying that James. Will's parabatai, as we know, is Jem. Matthew Fairchild is James Herondale's parabatai, and vice versa. We have Thomas and Christopher Lightwood. We also have Lucy Herondale, which is James's little sister. There's Alistair Carstairs, who is Cordelia's brother and big bad bully that we know of from Shadowhunters Academy. We talked about him briefly in that episode. We also have Anna Lightwood. And then we have Grace Blackthorn and Tatiana Blackthorn. We know Tatiana from being Gideon and Gabriel's sister from the Infernal Devices, and Grace Blackthorn we met through the Bane Chronicles that we discussed as the person that Magnus like went over to Blackthorn Manor, and he was like, this is some like creepy shit. I'm dipping the fuck out and I'm not coming back here for a while. And with that, we also have Jesse Blackthorn, which I noted is dead-ish, son of Tatiana Blackthorn. And I feel like there's so many more that I'm missing, but they'll just kind of naturally be introduced into the conversation. All that being said, I know we added like a new segment in our episodes called The Pattern. And Laura, you had kind of shared the pattern and kind of the background of it. Does this book follow the pattern?
Excellent question. The pattern, in case you're wondering, the pattern is, does the plot of the book reveal itself in I would say like the first 5 chapters, but I would say like definitely the first chapter? Yes. This book absolutely reveals the plot in the first chapter. And I think that goes along with kind of the writing style of the Shadowhunter books, right? Like so much happens in all of these books, and the way that the writing is, there are several POVs, but they're not like specific POV chapters. It's like every other paragraph is more or less like a different like POV. It's very interesting. So in the context of that, the chapters are very long. So in the first chapter, I'm going to use this example specifically. Cordelia says like, I will never give myself in marriage. I will never sell myself in marriage. Never ever. Like I will only marry for love. There's no other reason. And then of course at the very end of the book, she does exactly that. She stands up for James, lies for everybody, and gives herself in marriage to the man that she loves, who explicitly looks her in the face and says, I do not love you. So it is a very, I mean, that is like the last chapter and the first chapter. It's bookended right there. Obviously there's overarching plot because James going into the shadow realm, that happens in the first chapter. Matthew drinking in the first, everything is there in the first chapter. That is there in the end as well.
And all the key people that make a difference, because you even have Jesse Blackthorne who plays into the end of this book too, and how significant he is entirely, not just in the plot, but like saving James's life.
Yeah. Yep. And that would be in the prologue, which is the natural place to start. Jess, tell me about the prologue. Tell me about Brosselin Forest.
So the prologue is you kind of get a little background of Lucy Herondale. It's kids in the 1800s. They're frolicking in the woods. They don't have parental supervision. And she finds herself caught in a fairy trap. And who does she see in this fairy trap but Jesse Blackthorne? And, you know, they have this little banter going back and forth. And she's like, I am Lucy Herondale. My father is Will Herondale. He is a very important person. You need to return me home at once. And the thing that we know about Herondales, if you've been following the podcast, is that Herondales are known to see ghosts. So, but at this point, she's not really feeling like this person's a ghost. Maybe he's a fairy. Maybe he's a changeling. Because he's not really see-through, but he's just like more animated and live-like, which we find out later in the book why. And he's like, I've heard about you, Herondales. She doesn't know his name, and even as the prologue wraps, and she's like, she's not going to see him for another like 4 or 5 years when she's older, because I guess she's about like 10 here. So when she's 15, 16, because the boys are like 17, 18, even 19. Alistair's older. So yeah, I mean, that's really, we're like, okay, that's going to be significant. Of course, she's the only one who could see him, but she doesn't recognize that because she's the only one there.
Right. And she's also a child. Yeah. So, you know, it's one of those things. And she says later, like, I don't know, I thought you were a fairy. What the fuck, guys? Like, what? So really great. Kind of sets the tone. So, like, Lucy can see ghosts. We know that. But, like, okay. Interesting. Setting the tone, which is what happens in chapter 1 when James is fighting a demon and he slips into the shadow realm. I love the, like, instant world building that happens in chapter 1, because we get like the repetition of all of the familiar Shadowhunter things, so that a new reader could potentially start here. I wouldn't recommend it, but if you did, you could start here.
Yeah, I would wonder why you would start here at this point in the series. But again, everything I don't want to say be read as a standalone, but each sector of the Chronicles could be read, because some people don't even read the Mortal Instruments. Some people just start with the Infernal Devices. So I guess if you like section them off, you could be like, oh, maybe, I mean, there was a point in time where we were going to go to the last hour. We might have gone to the last hours instead of the Dark Artifices first. So
we never would have. Don't worry. We never would have. Don't worry. But the instant world building we get is just like, okay, we're in London, like demons haven't been seen for a while. Everybody's like out on patrol, but we're kind of rusty, right? Like,
which right there. It's all waiting for the other shoe to drop. And that's what the adults are saying. Like, our kids are basically just like play fighting with each other. They're not really doing anything. And I feel like that, again, sets it, because it fits the pattern. You're like, oh, this is just telling us that something's going to happen any day now.
Yeah, for sure. And Will says that later. He's like, all these boat parties and regalias. He's like, we were fighting demons. And Tessa's like, you know, maybe we deserve happiness. We'll get there. So like chapter 1 is essentially building our world. We meet James, like exploding demons. We see the Merry Thieves. We get right here that demon, before James and everybody kills that exploding demon, the Dumas demon, that demon recognizes James. And James is like, nah, they can't do that. No, I'm just never going to mention this at all and keep it to myself and act surprised when they talk to me later. Chapter 1.
I have a weird question. I know we're only starting. Were there times you were reading this book where you're like, if you only told your parents, you don't know what your parents have gone through? And then I'm thinking of us as kids. And I'm like, I don't know if that would translate well, so I get it now.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. There's like secrets are no fun. The secrets that they keep from their parents, I understand. It's the secrets that they keep from each other that are annoying. And like, even Magnus is like, yo, okay, like, I get it. We're rebellious youth. But like, if it gets to a certain level, I'm telling your parents, like, just so we're all clear.
Magnus is the cool uncle right now.
Yeah. He's like, I'm here, I'm participating, I'm supervising, but also like, if it gets out of hand, I'm calling your dad.
I'm the responsible adult.
Yeah. I imagine at that point, he's looking around like, me?
Probably. Which, like, also, I know I'm flashing forward here, but when Matthew is like, we've heard about Magnus Bane, I look up to him. And then when he finally meets him, he's like, sir, you're like fanboying over him. It was like, keep it in your pants, Matthew. We get it.
But we get it.
Like, don't, it's Magnus.
It's Magnus. Like, he Magnus gets it.
I know, Magnus gets it. He'd be disappointed if people weren't fawning over him.
No, absolutely. Oh my gosh, it's so fun. All right, we are just, we're all over. Okay. So I don't know if listeners know this, but if you were following my Instagram or my personal TikTok or perhaps even the ACOFAE Instagram, then you knew that last year I was in London. And when I was in London, I did go to the Devil Tavern. There is a plaque there where it used to be. I've got my picture in front of it. I've got it all there. It's a whole thing. And the Devil Tavern is where the Merry Thieves go after this demon attack. We get more world building. Like, James rented the room. It's a place where they all go. It's a downworlder bar, but they're all like...
It's like their little clubhouse. It's so cute.
It's there. And Jess, you and I have had this conversation. It's their third place.
Yes.
Right? It's their place to go without their parents, without their siblings. Like, it's not work, which would be like London in general. It's not home or school, which is the Institute. It's a third place. And good for them. I love it. And I love that, like, it's a downworlder bar and they're just like welcome and everybody like appreciates them and kind of like helps them and gives them drinks and stuff and doesn't judge them at all.
Oh, and it goes both ways too, because they respect them as Shadowhunters and Nephilim, yes, but they also receive that same respect from the Merry Thieves, that they keep their promises to Downworlders, that they've saved Downworlders from being poisoned from mermaids, specifically in this book I'm referring to. So it's like there's, you know, there's a camaraderie there, even if it's unspoken. And they also look out for the Merry Thieves, because even when Cordelia shows up for like the first time, they were like, who are you? We know who these other guys are. We know who Lucy is, but who are you? You're new. We're not familiar. And they're very, they just want to protect them, just like it would go both ways. So you get that right away.
And also, it is here where Polly, the bartender, says, like, oh, yeah, there's demons in London. Like, yeah, they're probably scared. Like, right? They're probably been scared away. James is like, I'm just never going to tell anybody that information and just file that away in my own brain. But again, it's all right here. It's all right here. So is Matthew's drinking upstairs, like his silver bracelet. Something else that is like right here when the boys are in the Devil Tavern is that we get this little background of like James and how he met Grace, because we learn that Grace is moving to Chiswick, to the old Leywood house. So Jess, what can you tell me about these summers in Idris with James and Grace? Like, we can kind of hit their whole backstory here.
Yeah. So basically they're like neighbors, but of course, with the history that we know with the Blackthorns, like, specifically Tatiana Blackthorn, she blames the Carstairs and the Herondales for everything. I say specifically everything. Really, the fact that her dad slept around on her mom. He was colluding with downworlders, and not even downworlders, specifically demons, and was spreading demon pox throughout the Shadowhunter community left and right. And then he turned into a giant worm because he was so infected with the demon pox, and they killed him. And this, like, we know this from Clockwork Princess, and spoiler. And that's like in the first chapter of the Clockwork Princess. So, but she holds everybody else accountable, and she's out for revenge. She's out for vengeance. And at one point, Tatiana is like, "My gates are overgrown. You Herondales, I hate you. Your son should come and trim the gates and the thorns and like do landscaping." And they're just like, "Fine, whatever. If that's going to keep you off her back, like, we'll be good neighbors about it." And so Tatiana has a daughter, or she adopted her daughter, Grace. And Grace is like, "I'll keep you company. I'll give you the shears." And then they've built a rapport around their relationship back, being neighbors. And so he's like, "I'll come every Tuesday." And then it's like, "I'll come every summer, and we'll hang out all the time, and we'll do this, that, the other thing." And this is also, I think I'm going to jump ahead. I'll wait till you bring that up about ducks embrace me as your king. But that's kind of their backstory. And they kind of like have this, and we have to keep in mind, it's like the 1800s, the late 1800s. So their correspondences are very demure and soft-spoken, and like, "Oh, I can't talk to you because I'm a girl and I can't be left alone with a boy without supervision. But like, I'm going to read under this tree or by the gate. And if you happen to show up, like, how about that?" So they spend a lot of their time together. And she's also like Grace is like kept under lock and key a lot. So she's very lonely. And this is kind of the only interaction she has with somebody of her age.
Yeah. Yeah. And James says he has exchanged hundreds of secret letters with Grace over the years, and that he is like in love with her as far as he knows, right? And James's whole thing is like, Herondale's only loved once. So how can he love someone other than Grace? He's loved Grace almost his whole life, right? That's kind of like James's whole conflict that he has here. So Grace then gives James kind of like a test of love, which is just so annoying. Let's just get right into their backstory. And one summer, because Tatiana has been planning this the whole time, and that summer, when James is 13, Grace is like, "Oh my God, like Tatiana has my mom's bracelet and she just like won't let me have it. And like, it's just in a box and it's locked. And if you could steal it for me, that could like prove your love for me, right?" And James is like, "Yeah, bet. I'm a child. I'm a boy. Bet. No, sir." But he turns into a shadow and he steals that bracelet for Grace. And then Grace is like, "Oh, I just remembered. Like, I can't wear this. Like, she'll see it. You wear it as like my friend and a token of my affection." And then she snaps that bracelet on his wrist when he is 13 years old. And that is a magic enchanted bracelet. It is a spell, and it makes James completely like head over heels for Grace. And that is the state. And James has never taken it off, because he says later when he does take it off that there is like a strip of pale skin underneath there. So James has never taken that off in like 4 years. So 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 when we meet him. So he's been under this enchantment for 4 years. And that's when Grace says a little bit later, Grace is like, "Yeah, like, don't you feel like our love isn't strong when we're not together?" And James is like, whoa. Like, love can endure all. And Grace is like, "I feel our love like fade when we're not together, because like, the bond has to be like re-strengthened, and that's every summer. It's like,
And there's little, like, and especially like you say with the little Summer, but then she's also like testing it and where his emotions are. Like she's absolutely gaslighting him on just to like see where his, I guess his devoutness towards her, because then he has the Shadowhunter fever that he catches, and what it's like, you know, like a chicken pox sort of thing. You have it once, you'll never have it again. And Cordelia had it, and her mom had it. And because of that, everybody was like, well, stay at our place. Like, we can take care of you. And Cordelia would read to him, and because James hid nothing from Grace, he would say, oh yeah, like since the last time we talked, I got this really bad fever and I had to stay with the Carstairs. And Lucy would read to me, and she was like, oh, well, that's because you love her. And he's like, what? No, like, we're just best friends. We're family friends. Like, our families were friends before we were even born. She was just doing this nice thing. But meanwhile, that's absolutely when he fell in love with her.
Yeah, it's just, oh my gosh, it's just so many things. It's so many things. Okay, so we established that Grace is moving in with Tatiana in Chiswick, and that Cordelia is coming with her mother, Sonar, and Alistair from their house, Cirenworth, because there is a scandal with Elias, right? Elias, Cordelia, and Alistair's father. We have Sonar being weak. There's she used to be so hardy, my mother, and now we're worried about her. I wonder if Alistair knows more than he lets on. It's all right here. I love Cordelia so much. I mean, I love pretty much all of the female MCs in the Shadowhunter universe, but Cordelia is just so lovely.
I remember when there was I think it was Fake Crate did a special Last Hours box, and you found out there was going to be a Cordelia plushie. You were like, get the plushie now. Don't ask questions. I'm just telling you, you're going to want it before it gets, upcharged on Makari somewhere.
Yeah. And it's beautiful. And it's her bronze dress from the Whispering Room and all of that. So we'll get there. I love this park walk. Right? Cordelia arrives, Lucy's there, Tessa, everybody's unpack the house, blah, blah, blah. Get out of here, go walk. James, walk behind them.
I know.
Go chaperone them.
Go chaperone the two girls. And meanwhile, see, and this is cute because also with this beginning of the book backstory, you have Lucy who, and it's very my best friend's brother trope is happening here, where Cordelia has been in love with Lucy's brother her whole time. The second she met him, she's like, I'm in love with him. And she's never told Lucy this, but she's been so smitten with James. She loves him so much. And so she's coming to town. She's in London. She's the new girl who doesn't know anybody. And Lucy had overheard a conversation with her brother and Matthew being I really like this girl. She's new to town. And Lucy is automatically thinking, oh my gosh, my brother's in love with my best friend. This is so cool. My best friend's going to be my sister. Lo and behold, Cordelia isn't the only new girl in town, but Grace is going to show up too. We don't know this right away because we have the stroll and the picnic. Lucy and Cordelia are whispering. Cordelia is like, your brother doesn't like me like that. Meanwhile, she's like, oh my God, I hope your brother likes me like that so bad. And James is just being James, hot son of Will and Tessa, walking, reading. And Cordelia's like, I wish I could walk and read at the same time. And Lucy's just like, he's just my brother. Whatever.
I like her later. She's like, he threw up in his shoe when he was 6. He's just a boy. It's wonderful. It's wonderful.
But she also looks up to him because when when there's a demon who's looking for, and we're going to get into it again, looking for James, she's like, we have the same blood. Why am I not being chased? And she's like, what about me? Me too. And same thing with Magnus Bane shows up are you causing trouble? I know how you Herondales are. And she's like, I'm a Herondale. Include me in the trouble.
It's like, me too. We just love her. We love her so much. This is also the conversation I said where this is like the giveaway where the pattern is, because she says like, you know, my job here is to like ingratiate myself. I'm here to like really work the case for my father and like win friends and like, you know, seduce my enemies type situation. And she's like, you know, I don't want to have to marry, but you know, it's kind of like expected of me, but like I would never sell myself. And then Lucy's like, imagine if you got married to James. It's just so sweet.
And it's also like the societal expectations of the time that this book is taking place in, that it's on the woman to save the family's name because it's about who she's going to align herself in marriage. And at this point, Alistair is the quote unquote like man of the house because Elias is, you know, I guess he's like in the Silent City, right? Yeah. And like, and kind of like in a, like, you know, Silent City is a lot of things. It's, you know, for health. It's also for like a prison. And he's kind of positioned himself about like, well, it's not about marriage for me. It's about the politics. It's about the career. I have to oversee everything as a whole. So he aligns himself in that vein. So it is on Cordelia to be like, well, whatever happens with Dad, I'm responsible for getting our family out of whatever we may or may not get into.
Yeah. And it is to that end that her mother, Sonar, has dressed her in just hideous pastels of the season, which just is not sort of Cordelia at all, which is why she finds herself in what is it? Ashes of Roses, a lilac dress at this ball, this welcoming ball that is thrown by Tessa and Will in honor of Cordelia and her family to get them accustomed to the enclave of London. And it's here where we get Matthew, who's already like pissed drunk in like one of the rooms, just hiding, that James has to go get. We've got our introduction to Anna, and we have just a brief introduction to like all of our side characters, like Charles and like all of these little side characters. But just tell me about Anna.
I love Anna. I love Anna so much. I feel like Anna gives these boys a run for their money. The first thing she says at this ball, because James doesn't want to deal with it. And then Matthew is drinking. So Matthew's like, well, I can't be doing this shit alone. James, get your ass out here. I can't dance with everybody. So then you have Anna who comes in, finds the boys, you know, part of our Merry Thieves. And she's like, there are girls who need someone to dance with them and tell them they look pretty. And I can't do it all on my own. And the riz that Anna has, and it says it later in the book when she's at, I can't think of the name right now, Hell Ruel. She's like, I could seduce anybody, anyone at any time. And I have a rule if I don't seduce them more than once. So like, if I have to do it more than once, this is my accomplishment, or like, you know, this is my good deed for everybody. And again, later in the book, she does. And she's like, my job's done. Now y'all can leave because now this is going to be fun for me.
It's my time.
Yeah. I mean, love Anna. And, you know, Anna has grown so much since we last met. We last had a story with her. It wasn't Shadowhunters. Was it the Gem? What's the Gem one? The Gem anthology. I can't think. Not the Bane Chronicles.
Ghost of the Shadow Market.
Ghost of the Shadow Market. That's when we last saw Anna.
Yes, that's when we last saw Anna. And she was with Ariadne. And it was a whole club situation.
And she was like, I don't want to say insecure, but like she was kind of closeted for a while because she didn't. And by the end of Ghost of the Shadow Market, like she was out with her family. Her mom was like, "Let's get you shopping. Like if you don't want these dresses, like don't wear the dresses." And she is just so like because there are certain, I'll say, boomer stereotypes in this book. You have Cordelia's mom who's like, Anna, and everybody was like, whoa. Watch what you say about Anna, because she is one of the most prolific shadow hunters here.
Snaps for Anna. We just love her so much. What we don't love is when James comes and he asks Daisy to dance. Daisy, our nickname for Cordelia, and they have this dance and he's like waltzing her around. They're flirting. They have instant chemistry. Like you feel it.
Everybody can see it. It's palpitating.
Yeah.
He's in the middle of saying like, what are you doing tomorrow? There's actually this picnic and I say bitch, that's not right. Grace walks in the room.
Mm-hmm. Grace walks in.
Dead in his tracks, middle of the dance, walks off. Cordelia's just left standing there in essentially a coming out party to Enclave London. And she's like, I can't break. This means so much because reputation, again, to refer back to what we were talking about, is so pivotal at this moment in time / history and the circles.
Yes. So what happens is that Matthew comes in and he swoops in and he saves her and he makes a quip like, oh, we're interchangeable. Like, oh, whatever. But he's like, I'm going to talk to James about this. That was fucked up. And Cordelia's like, yeah, it really was. And you know what? I'm going to fucking dress him down too, because that was just some bullshit. And that is when Matthew invites her to the lake.
I love them. And you know what I also love? I love, like, yeah, they're the Merry Thieves. Yeah, like they're bros together, but they'll also call each other out on each other's, like, that was fucked up. And they're all having a problem with it. They were like, you know what? I didn't say something at first. And it's not just with this situation. It's just like throughout this book, but I'm going to say something now, and I love that they hold each other accountable.
Yeah, they really do. This is also when Lucy sees Jesse, but she doesn't know that it's Jesse, and the reader doesn't know that it's Jesse. It's just like this guy, and she's like, oh my God, it's the guy, and he's dressed in like the same thing, and like my dad isn't talking to him, and that's fucking rude, and like, why isn't anybody? And Jesse sees her and is like, oh, fuck, I think is what's going on in his head, and he's just like, shit.
Because he's also like, your dad, knowing what we know about the Herondales, like he kind of was familiar with it too. He's like, your dad didn't see me. And then you saw me, but I thought you could only see me because I was a kid, because, with Fae lore is some, you could grow out of it, but kids are known to see Fae and mythological creatures. So he was kind of like in that realm, like, oh, she didn't grow out of it. But now what is weird is that she's the only one who can see me outside of my family. So what is it with her being Lucy?
Yeah, he's like, you're an unusual girl, when they're in the games room talking. And then when she's like, what is going on? He's like, wait, there is death here. Poof. And she's like, what the fuck? I love it. And the death is the shadow realm that James slips into when he is dancing with Grace. And I like this. I do like how it is established very early, especially here, that James just doesn't know Grace at all. And he says like, oh, Cordelia, I don't really know Cordelia at all later on when he's like deeply under the spell. But here he doesn't really know Grace at all, because he's looking around and he sees Grace talking to like Charles. Of course, like she throws that back in his face later. Not that you would notice, but he's like, gosh, she has no experience with like Shadowhunter politics. Like she doesn't know how to like maneuver with all these powerful people. Like I should go save her from Charles. Meanwhile, and we get it with Matthew, like later on, Grace knows exactly what she's doing. Like she is like, laying the groundwork. She's like over here with Charles. She knows he's going to be the consul next. Like she is playing the game. And James is like, I should protect her. It's like, you stupid boy.
They're all stupid boys. This whole book, I was like, stupid. This person needs to think. He's not thinking with the right head. Well, the boys will be boying. Like all my notes for these boys in this book.
And we also have speaking of boys, James is like, Alistair and Thomas are talking. That's weird. Moving on.
I know, like, so, because, okay, again, at this point, and us as the reader are also like, what's going on? Because we know, if we remember, because again, there's so many fucking characters, Alistair is the bully. Like, why? And we know that the Merry Thieves literally left Shadowhunter Academy because James was getting kicked out, and they were all for one for all. They all dipped. They got private tutored by Henry Fairchild, and they were like, this is so much more fun, and we learn more. And so, but again, we get their backstory with a flashback that Thomas and Alistair met up in Paris unintentionally. Like, Thomas was on his Shadowhunter, what do we call it? Why am I like, study abroad. He was on his Shadowhunter study abroad, and they're like, you're here. Let's meet up and get our flirt on.
And they do. And Alistair is actually there in Paris with Charles, which is why he's late that one time when they go to the movie, and it's that whole thing.
I didn't pick up on it till finally they were in one of their fights, and they were like, this is like what happened in Paris. I was like, oh, he was there. Because you don't find out that it was Charles and Alistair in Paris till after the Thomas and Alistair flashback. So when you got that, I was like, oh!
Because Thomas is like, Alistair won't tell me where he's staying. He won't tell me why he's here, what he's doing. But, like, he'll meet up with me.
The drama.
The drama of it all. The drama here is Barbara in the ballroom. James, see her gets grabbed by, like, a shadow root when he has slipped into the shadow realm. And that is when Barbara collapses, right? And then here is a very Pirates of the Caribbean moment where Cordelia is like, cut off her corset. I loved it. And Anna's like, yeah, let's go. Cut off her corset. Here's the dagger. That's our queen, Anna. God, we love her. I love it. I like how she has the perfect knife to cut off a corset.
I know, she just happens to have.
It's like,
Go, Anna, go.
Go, Anna. Go, Anna. And of course, Barbara is Thomas's sister. And she, she's like, no, I'm fine. I just had a dizzy spell. Whatever. James, though, needs to, there's a healing rune that needs to be given, that's what we have to do. And James is like, Cordelia, like, use my steely. It's in my pocket. But his hands are like this because he is still, like, dealing with the shadow realm. And this is when Cordelia notices this, and she's like, this is fucking weird. Why is he asking me to do this? And James's internal monologue is like, this is fucking weird. I wonder if she's wondering why I'm asking her to do this. It's very funny. It's very funny. It's very funny. And also, while this is happening, because the Shadowhunters book, there's a shit ton of stuff that happens. There is a Shax demon attack while this party is happening, and that's what eventually, like, it breaks up the party. Patrols are happening, it is what it is. And then we have Will and Tessa sexy time.
Good for them.
I love them so much. They're wonderful.
I love that they love each other so
much. They're so okay. So we know from the bonus. Did you read the bonus story at the end of this?
I was crying. I was like, I broke.
So we know at the end of this bonus story that Will and Tessa got married when Will was 19. So they've been married 20 plus years. So 19, 29, 39. He's around 40-ish here. He's so hot.
So hot. And I mean, they talk about how he has, like, salt and pepper hair, that people are still flirting. And Tessa's like, hello. They were blatantly all up on you at our party. Like, it's not like we're new. It's not like people don't know. We are the Herondales. And he's like, really didn't know. I only have eyes for you. Obsessed. And Tessa says, his eyes are still a vibrant blue. Tessa, stop it. We're not going to go there. Because I spiraled. I was in, like, this couple chapters, and I texted Laura, usually with the Shadowhunters, if you haven't been following. I keep her up to date with, like, my reactions with certain books. Shadowhunters Chronicles are one of them. And I just spiraled. And this is why we keep things surface level, because you just spiral really quickly because everything's so connected.
Yeah, especially when Will says, like, am I old and fretful? Because the narrator gives him a Welsh, like, or a Wales lilt. And it's just like, oh my gosh. Am I old and fretful? She's like, no, when you're 80, you'll still be my beautiful Will. Stop it.
And then in the epilogue, they're talking about being old and hideous. And he's like, well, Tessa will never be old and hideous, but I will. And I'll be old and hideous and die. I was like, oh, it's a rough time out here if you love Shadowhunters.
Ooh. Ooh, it is. It is rough. It is rough. It is rough. But they get their bang on, and God, we love him for it. We love him for it. We love him for it. Oh, and James is very unsettled. So while his parents bang, he's up on the roof. He's up on the roof, and he lights his match, which is his beacon for Jem to come talk to him, because he is just unsettled, and he needs to talk about going to the Shadow Realm because Jem taught him how to control his triggers and his emotions and how to really not go there for a long time, and how Jem explained that like universes are like a honeycomb, so he's like slipping into this one. It's a whole thing. And also the warning that you could get stuck if you go there and you aren't like trained. So Jem does it. Jem loves James, and we love that for all of them just so much. So much. Oh my gosh.
I'm just going to smile. I just love thinking about and talking about them.
Let's see. We have already talked about the scalding fever that James had after he was sent to Sarenworth Hall, after he was kicked out of Shadowhunter Academy in 1900. That's when he and Lucy stay with Cordelia for an extended period of time, and James gets sick, and this is when Cordelia reads to him the story of Majnun and Layla. And they have these moments, and like she lays down with him because he's freezing and like presses her body to him, and they have these moments, and it's set. And James has these recollections of jasmine and wood smoke when he goes to bed for like years after he has this. But again, he's got this bracelet on at this point, like bracelets on. So let's go to the party let's go to the lake. Take me to the party at the lake.
So we have now made it to the picnic day. Everybody's invited. Well, I say all the kids are invited. And Cordelia's just trying to be like, hey, like, I'm a good guest. I'm new to the party. Like, I brought a bunch of stuff. Like, here's my fancy charcuterie with all the stuff that I know you like because Lucy gave me an in. And it's fun. It's a good time. Everybody shows up. Cordelia's there. She's kind of like hostess with the mostest. Anna shows up. Anna's just being herself. And James eventually shows up. And in front of everybody, Cordelia's like, you and I got to talk. And it's, again, let's reinforce the fact that anytime two people of the opposite sex are alone together, people are chatting. So everybody's watching what's going to happen because they also know from, the last interaction of all this stuff is James left her high and dry on the dance floor. So they are like, he's going to get it. And he does. And she makes him, he's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I was a piece of shit. And she's like, you're right. You were a piece of shit. And he's like, I'm going to make it up to you. I'm going to make it up to you, my Daisy. And she's like, fuck. Like every time he uses like that little nickname he started calling me, like he has no idea what that does to me. And I'll basically say yes to anything. And she does. And he's like, and I'm going to hold you to that. At this point, they're having their one-on-one little chat. And who rolls up again but Grace? And Grace is like, who's this bitch? And he's like, oh, this is Cordelia. Because boys be boying doesn't get the fact. He's like, oh, this is harmless. And doesn't see that Grace is threatened. She doesn't like her. She knows that deep down without the bracelet that James is in love with Cordelia. And he's like, oh, this is Cordelia. She's like, oh, yeah. And already Cordelia and Grace, they know each other. They see each other for what they are. So she's like, I'm going to go. Bye. And goes back with all the friends. And Grace is like, what's good, James? And James is like, hey, come here with my friends. Remember that time you really wanted to meet them all? Like, I want you to meet them. And she's like, no.
Yeah. And also when James and Cordelia are talking, Cordelia's like, just tell me flat out what the fuck is going on with you and Grace. I just love Cordelia. She's also like, don't you daisy me, but daisy me, please. But don't. But don't.
No.
She's like, you humiliated me. You did all of these things. He's like, I'm sorry. I didn't think about these things, and I should have thought about you. And I do like that.
And the bigger implications. And I like that it wasn't just like, this hurt my feeling, but this is so much bigger than what.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, you know what this could have meant. I just came here. And she's really good about that.
She's so good. She's good. But then to her fucking face, James is like, I would die for Grace.
We have an understanding.
We have a secret love. And Cordelia's just like, fuck, dude. All right. Like, all right. Damn. Okay.
Like, she assumed it from the night of the dance. Like, she was the girl from out of town they were talking about. Mm-hmm. And everybody else was like, oh, Cordelia wasn't the girl from out of town he was talking about.
I also like this mention, though, because Jess, you brought it up, when Grace and James are talking after Cordelia leaves, and Grace is like, so, tell me about Cordelia. You know, you told me about, like, the time with the daisies and the fields, you saved her, and how the nickname, and the reading, you told me about all of this. And James is like, I did? Like, I don't really know her that well, though.
But did he forget? Okay, now that we're talking it out, did he forget because of the bracelet? Because the bracelet's just like, Grace, 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 Grace.
Yeah, it suppresses everything that has to do with Cordelia.
So then, like, because obviously we know later in the book, and if you're listening, you probably realize this is a spoiler episode, when, like, all the little things pop up, it's the love and the memory coming, like, despite, it's like Dorian and the Valg. And he's like, I'll plead whatever hell you tell me to.
Yeah, because that's really echoed right here, though, too, because Grace is like, kiss me, kiss me, kiss me before the demon attack. And the kiss is like being stuck with needles and tastes like ash, right?
And he thinks it's okay because his dad was like, oh, love is supposed to hurt. And he's like, I guess it's supposed to be like this.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Stupid boy.
He's such a stupid boy. But he is a good shadow hunter because, like, the weather starts to change, like, things are coming in, like, Lucy, everybody's at the picnic and is like, yo, what is going on? Attack. It's day. But, like,
this isn't supposed to happen, but what is happening? But Lucy's just as good because the first thing she picks up on it too, because again, they're like James and Grace are at one side of the picnic field, I guess, and like everybody else is like doing the picnic thing on another. And the first thing Lucy says goes, "Do you have Cortana on you?" And Cordelia is like, "Yeah, it's under the picnic blanket. Like, I don't leave home without it."
Yeah, she's like, I got it. And then this is where Ariadne is hurt, right? Like Barbara, all of these things happen. Piers Wentworth, all of these things. All of these people are attacked here, and it's such a big deal. Like, there's mundanes here. It's daylight. The weather changed. Like, what is happening? So everybody goes to the infirmary. Christopher takes Grace home. And here is where we have our first time that Jem and Cordelia... No, I'm sorry. This is where we have the first time that Jem is in the music room, and he talks to James. And he's just like, hey, got your message. The fuck, my guy? The fuck? What's going on? Like, what? And James is like, well, I went to the Shadow Realm, right? Like, and like Barbara, and like, oh, like, what do I do? What is going on? And Jem is like, okay, we're gonna figure it out. I'm gonna do some digging. I'm gonna see what is going on. I will get back to you, but like, chill. Just chill a little bit. Also, like, violin in my music room. Hey. Hey, it's just really nice. But it is after this where James has a terrible idea where he's like, you know what? I'm just going to go investigate the Shadow Realm because that's perfect. That's perfect, right? Like, stupid boys. So they go into the ballroom, seal it up, and Matthew starts like berating James because he doesn't know how to go into the Shadow Realm. And Matthew starts going up to him and making him feel bad. Like, you're a demon. Go to the Shadow Realm. You belong there. Like, you're horrible. And it upsets him so much that he does.
And it's not like he said it on purpose. He didn't think all the things because immediately Matthew's like, oh, I don't mean this. I was just trying to get you emotional about it. And you just like reading it, but I was going to say seeing it. And you see his face fall. Like, wait, my best friend, my parabatai really thinks these things about me. He's like, no. Crap, I can't pull you out because you literally just went there.
Yeah.
It's just like a circle we're going in right now.
So while the boys are locked in the ballroom going into the shadow realm, Jeb and Cordelia are talking about like her father and the trial and the mortal sword and all of this stuff. And then after that, Lucy's like, hey, you want to go on an adventure? You want to go on an adventure to Chiswick House? Like, let's go. Let's go. Because she's like, Jessamine told me that, we should go to Chiswick House.
Apparently the ghosts talk. Meanwhile, she was going to say Jessie, as in Jessie Blackthorn. And she was like, what's another ghost with that similar name?
Yeah, it's like
Jessamine.
It's like, but they do. So Lucy and Cordelia, they go to Blackthorn Manor, and Cordelia is there to like distract, right? So she's like knocking on the door, and she's like, "Hey, Grace,
you're new. I'm new. We really only have like the same person in common." While we're being here, like, I totally understand your struggles. Like, she's trying to be a girl's girl, but she's really just trying to help Lucy out. And Grace is like, no, you don't understand my struggle. Okay, thanks, bye.
Yeah, okay, thanks, bye, bitch. Get out of here. And Cordelia's like, well, fuck. All right. I'm going to go and wander into the greenhouse because, like, I see. Let's go into the greenhouse. There's, like, a light there or whatever. And while she's in the greenhouse, she is attacked by all of Tatiana's Cerberus demons. And she's really, like, it's not good. It's not looking good. And then out of fucking nowhere comes James, because James, while in the shadow realm, followed a bright light to the greenhouse, and there was a portal situation there, and he followed it to Cordelia, who needed his help. Like, I mean, come on, Grace, you don't stand a chance, but you'll put up a fight.
When you first read that, did you think did you think Cordelia was gonna be saved by by James? I thought it was going to be Lucy. That's why I asked.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be Lucy too. Or Jessie. I was like, oh, all right. We're going into plot. Perfect. Like, that's great. And I like here how James has his knives, right? He's like, bam, bam, bam with his knives. We love it. Meanwhile, Lucy's climbing through the house. She's calling out for Jessie. She's like asking him what he's doing. Like, what are you doing? Like, what's going on?
Has no idea all this shit is going down. Cordelia's being attacked. Her brother's in the Shadowland, Shadow Realm, whatever you want to call it. She's just like, I have a tunnel vision of I have a mission that I need to accomplish.
Yeah. So she's just like, Jessie, what the fuck, my guy? He's like, what? I'm 17, but I'm also 23 because I've been preserved this whole time. Like, it's been a secret. Like, I was sick and I died. Like, is this really life? It's like a half-life. They have all of these philosophical conversations while Cordelia's getting her ass kicked in the greenhouse, which is just so funny. So when James saves her, he has like dust or whatever that he brought back with him from the Shadow Realm. But Will and the entire Enclave show up. And I just love this so much because Lucy and Cordelia are like, peace out. And James gets in so much trouble for like burning down Tatiana's greenhouse.
James is a menace.
It's so funny. So like later on the next morning when it's Charles, Will, and James and they're meeting, and Will is just like, first of all, can't take James seriously can't take Charles seriously because he like watched him grow up. And secondly, is like, why are we so on this? Like, there are demons attacking. Like, why the fuck do you give a fuck about somebody burning down abandoned outbuildings, Charles? Like,
well, and I like that. I mean, this is later, like towards the end of the book. Charles is very high and mighty of himself because his mom is Charlotte Fairchild. She's the head of the council. She's overseeing everything. And I'm jumping ahead here, so I won't say that. But you have Will, who's like, can we just spank him instead? He's so young. He's a child. He needs to, who he's kind of like? He's like Percy.
Yeah.
In here, like he thinks you think you are something special right now.
Yeah, and you are not. You are not. But they give him like leniency or whatever. They're just like watch your ass. And James is like, all right, fine. So he goes to I believe it's like Matthew's house. He gives him the dirt. He gives Henry the dirt, and he's like, I think that I am completely in love with Grace. And none of you noticed. And all his friends are like, yeah, we didn't notice. None of us fucking noticed. Like, it's weird. It's weird. We're all weirded out by it. Like, what is going on? And that is when he gets a letter. And Grace is like, meet me at 10 o'clock. I'm in danger.
And then he's like, can you cover for me, guys? And they're like, fuck, like, fine, but you gotta tell us more.
Yeah, it's like, come on. Like, you gotta give us more details. And he's like, all right. Meanwhile, because so much happens here, Cordelia's going to Anna's. Cordelia's going for tea at Anna's. And we fucking love this.
We love it. And this is, again, like, Cordelia's mom is like, where are you going? And she's like, oh, I'm going to Anna's. Like, we're going to hang. We're going for tea. Her brother comes to her defense. She's like, again, Anna is somebody we want to be associated with. Like, you and your boomer ways need to chill. And Anna's like, I want the tea. That is why you're here. I want to know if you can hold your own, because I see the other way. All the little Merry Thieves are looking at you. And she's like, so are you going to be their muse? And she's like, I don't want to be a fucking muse. I want to be a hero. I want to be a warrior. And Anna was like, this is so hot right now.
She's like, all right, bet. And of course, we got girls weeping outside of Anna's stoop because Anna is just a queen. And, her apartment is amazing. She's got Percy the snakes, talking about Percy's. But Matthew shows up and he's like, what are you doing here, Cordelia? And Anna's like, we are going out.
We're going out. And he's like, perfect. I needed somebody to go out with, so let's rally.
Yeah, let's go. So they go to the Hell Ruel, and we just love the Hell Ruel because we see Malcolm fade, we see Lily, we've got Hypatia Vex. Like, we love this. I love it so much.
This is like their Hotel Dumont.
It is.
Or Pandemonium or something.
It's just so fun,
it's
right?
So many things.
It's so many things. Like, we have mentions of Ragnar Fell, like, because this is the mermaid poisoning scene. So essentially here is the introduction of the Hellruel and like Downwilders. Everybody's a vibe. We get everything. Matthew is a regular here and he's drinking a lot. That's kind of what it is here. Malcolm Fade. No Blackthorn blood in you, Cordelia. Just check in. Fuck you, Malcolm. We will see you in 200 years.
Yeah, over like, what is this? Like 150 years earlier, but it's like 115 years earlier.
Yeah. So here we go. But all of this is to Hypatia Vex, her inner circle situation is where everybody ends up. And Arabelle, the mermaid, ends up poisoning all of the warlocks, and Cordelia saves them. So Hypatia owes them a favor. So Hypatia is going to contact Ragnar because Ragnar is the expert in dimensional magic, and dimensional magic is how the demons that attacked them in the park were able to attack them in daylight. The plot's complicated, but it's there.
I feel like everything is like, ooh, this is plot. It's either like plot or Easter egg.
Yeah, plot or Easter egg. And again, here's another thing. Like, oh yeah, like we all thought it was really fucking weird that there weren't a lot of demons in London, but like somebody powerful is saying stay out of London. Like, I wonder. It's also here where Cordelia kind of petitions Matthew to write to Charlotte on her behalf to kind of see what is going on with Elias and his trial. So there is that.
She's trying to use talk about somebody who, I don't want to say she is persistent. She wants to know, like right now at this point, for what we don't know, it feels like Elias is being used as a scapegoat for the Clave. Whatever is happening, he is a scapegoat for something because he also doesn't have a recollection of what's going on. And it's like, well, if he doesn't have a recollection, he must have done it. And Cordelia is trying to find a way to like save her family's name, save her dad's name. She is daddy's little girl in like her mind right now. And also kind of get herself out of this whole, like, I have to marry and save my family, because if her dad is acquitted in a way, then like she's off the hook too.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. So while all that is happening, we have Lucy, Thomas, and Christopher go to Anna's to try to see where everybody is, to go intercept them at the meeting of Grace and James. While they're there, they run into Alistair, who had just come from Charles, and Matthew, Cordelia, and Anna. So minus Anna, everybody goes to the River Thames to intercept this meeting between Grace and James. And it is this fucking meeting where it's just like Grace, it's the test, right? It's where Grace tests James, and James is like, no. How about no? Because, and I do also like the kind of dismissiveness that James has, because the note says like, I'm in danger. And when they get to the bridge and they meet, Grace is like, yeah, Tatiana's going to take me back to Idris and I'm going to be completely isolated. And James is like, yeah, that would be danger to you. I thought this was like
SOS. Yeah, he's definitely exasperated at this point with her.
Yeah, he was just like, all right, fine.
Everything feels like but then again, this is like where we were at by the end of this book, where we're like, we see where Grace is coming from, but also in Shadowhunter world, not so much. But again, even though Grace is a Shadowhunter, she was never raised as a Shadowhunter. And she even says, when she kind of gives James an ultimatum later in the book, she's like, I live a mundane life. So it doesn't, like me saying I don't want to be a Shadowhunter or deal with Shadowhunters anymore, that's not far-fetched from my life right now.
Well, and later in the book, you could say that now, because she's like, yo, marry me right now. Let's run away. Let's strip our marks.
Oh, this is the part. I cannot remember if it was now or in the okay.
Yeah, let's live as mundanes. Like, you don't understand. Like, I don't give a single shit about this. Like, if you love me, let's go. If you love me enough, fucking prove it and let's go. And James is like, no. And and this is where you really get an inkling that like there's something going on with Grace. She's like, screw you. Like, you forgot about me. Any man would do this. You are made of different stuff, James Herondale, than other men, because anyone else would marry me.
Which was already tapping into an insecurity of his, because what we know from the Tales from a Shadowhunters Academy, that was something that people kind of held over his head for so long. I mean, his mom was a downworlder technically, because she's a warlock, and warlocks aren't supposed to have kids, even though like she's with a shadow. Like it's all this stuff that he has heard his entire life, and it took him the last 7 years, especially being removed from those toxic environments of school, that he was like, you know what, people are going to talk shit, but I also know who I am. I know the people I surround myself with, and I know that that's not the case.
Yeah. And I think it's also here too, when this demon attack happens and like Grace doesn't fight. She's never been trained to fight. She's just like sitting there, like holding the thing and like a knife, and everybody else is fighting, because the Cerberus demons, as we learn, reproduced and are bonded to the Lightwood Tatiana's family to protect them. They're left over from
Lightwood, no, Blackthorn.
No. Lightwood, they were Benedicts.
Oh, sorry. You're right. Sorry.
Yeah, they were Benedicts. So they're there to protect Tatiana. All of that. It is during this battle that the demon that they are fighting, the Cerberus demon, speaks to James. And he says, like, Herondale boy, like, why are you destroying your own kind? Like, we who worship your grandfather, like, why are you doing this? And James is like, get the fuck out of here. If you worship my grandfather, then respect his blood, respect me and his name, fuck off. And the demon's like, all right, I will go in the name of hell's most cunning prince. I'll go. But don't talk about this. Don't tell anybody. Bang, bang. Here's another like secret. Don't talk about it, or I'm going to come and like murder your whole family.
Here's my question: when that happened, how would they know? This isn't 2023. We're not sending out something on socials. Like, how would they know?
How would they know? I don't know. Shit like that always seems to come back around. So who can say? It is after And this is also where Tatiana like comes in her little like skeletal trap or whatever, and is to James. James is like, let's all sit down and like hammer this out like fucking adults. And Tatiana's like, get fucked. I will ruin Grace's life if I have to. Like, you know what? Stay away from her. Stay away from her. And this is where Grace is like, no, James, don't write me. Nah.
We need some time apart.
We need time apart.
Yeah, 24 hours, because 24 hours later, she's engaged to Charles Fairchild.
Yeah.
Who is overseeing the council right now because Charlotte is stuck in Idris because there's kind of like a quarantine going on with all the demon attacks, that nobody is in and out of London. Nobody is in and out of Idris. Everybody is just everybody in the Shadowhunter world is at just like a dead halt and needs to stay where their ass is right now.
Yep. We have a little bit of after talk with Thomas and his tattoo. We have a Magnus mention. But then we get 12 p.m., 12 midnight, a little bit intoxicated Will singing in Welsh to Ragnar Fell, who has been sitting there for hours.
Yeah. So the kids walk in thinking they're sneaking in. They're like, crap, Dad's singing. He's in a good mood. He's in a good mood. He's going to bring us in. We're going to hear like all these like back when I was young stories. They are not here for it. And Ragnar's already like, I have been at this for hours sitting here and your father telling me about like Welsh and Wales, like stories from Wales.
Yeah. Oh my God. And then he's like, oh God, it's Christopher Lightwood. Secure the valuables. Where's the fire extinguisher? He'll burn the house down. It's like, Professor Fell, nice to see you. He's like, get away from me. I love it so much.
I also love where Ragnar, like, Will and Tess are in a good mood, but they were like, kind of beckoned away for a hot second. So Ragnar is just like looking over his shoulder, like waiting till they leave the room. And Ragnar's like, listen here, you little fuckers. I got shit I gotta put. I heard you've been doing some.
He's like, all right, little shits. Here's what's going to happen. You are children and you cannot get in trouble with the clave if you investigate this, Emmanuel Gast. Here's a little name for you. Here's Emmanuel Gast. Your babies. You won't get in trouble if you do this. I am going to Capri. Fuck off. All of you. I don't want anything to do with this. Like, here's a name. Leave me out of it. You and Magnus and all. I'm done. I just love him. I love Ragnar's
these characters. Like, it's just so good. I missed them so much. I don't want it to end.
Well, it ended for Barbara, who died just right now.
That is the person I was asking about because I was like, what's her relation? Who's her brother? What is it? She dies.
Yeah,
so
she dies.
That was the wrong thing to focus on.
But, Barbara dies, but we get all of this other, like, plot, right? Because, we have Charles, we have Alistair, we have this temporary engagement, we have Ariadne, we have all of this stuff because Charles. So what happens then? Cordelia goes home and Charles comes to see Alistair to tell him that Barbara had died. And it is here where it's Cordelia is like, well, it's a temporary engagement. Like, Ariadne's different. I went to see you today. Where were you? I love you. You can't say that you love me, Charles. This is all in Alistair's house with Cordelia, like, sneaking around and, like, looking. Alistair is like, no, Charles, I'm never going to get married. I will never deceive a woman like this. Like, you have Ariadne who's in love with someone else and prefers women, but like, I'm not going to find, that's like a 1 in a million. I won't find someone like that. I'm never going to put someone through them like that. And this is where Charles is like, don't you understand that everything that I do, I am doing for us and that I love you? And Alistair's like, actually, no. Actually, no, I don't see that at all. At all. Yeah.
You know what I love? Cordelia is overhearing this. And I think we should note that this is the only reason Cordelia is overhearing is because right before Charles came over, she was like, please, Alistair, you cannot tell anybody. And he's like, I won't. And Charles comes over and she has a weird feeling about Charles because if the Merry Thieves don't trust him, she's like, there's something off about this guy. So now she's like, why is he here? Why is he talking to my brother? I need to make sure he doesn't tell him what he promised he wasn't going, like the secrets that I shared with him. And if he does, I want to get ahead of it so I can catch my friends up. So then she's hearing all these declarations of love. She's like, oh, I'm not supposed to be hearing this. But she is such a fierce sister because despite it all, she's like, this is not my information, but I know my brother's hurting. And that, you know what, everything else aside, that's what I'm going to get pissed at him about.
Yeah. And Cordelia is so good about it too. She's just like, I should not fucking be here. Like, this is his personal life. Like, damn
and then
it.
They start hooking up, like goodbye hookup. And she's like, ooh, I
damn
really
it. Should it be here? Should it be here? It's pretty funny. It's pretty funny. Let's see. James deals with stress by researching princes of hell because like the demon is like in your grandfather's name, you know, this prince. So we have our princes of hell. I wrote them down. Samael, Azazel, Belial, Mammon, Asterion, Asmodeus, Belphegor, Leviathan, and Lucifer. And they all have their own realms.
It felt like I was in an episode of Supernatural in chapter 11 right there.
Absolutely. It really did. It was like, damn. And then Jem, this is where like Jem and James are talking and Jem's like, look, like, let it go. You're the light of my life. Like there's only 4 flames that can touch me. You're one of them. And James is like, yeah, but I still have to know. And this is where Jem is like, fine. I'll call Magnus. It's fine. Like, all right. But like, let it go until I come back to you with this information. Like, let it go. And James is like, well,
when
I'm
has
gonna
James let anything go? That is what I'm learning from book 1 of The Last Hours.
Well, he's like, you know what? Fine. I'm going to keep myself busy and I'm going to go get Cordelia and we are all going to go meet up at Emmanuel Gast's and we are going to give Lucy the fright of her life. Poor girl. Also, Matthew is drunk here. I do think that's important to mention. He does fall trying to go up the building and he does blame it like on his new boots and things, but he's very drunk here. And it just gets worse.
I think Ragnar picks up on these things too. Or no, I'm sorry, Lucy does. Because like in the previous chapter, you have Ragnar's like, oh, how's your mom doing? And he like goes to pour a drink for himself immediately because that's tied in to what we know from the Ghost of a Shadow Market, from Matthew and the poison and Charlotte's miscarriage.
And Matthew has never told anyone about that. So it's just sitting with him.
And everybody, and even James picks up on this. Not necessarily, he's like, something's there. It's something that he won't even share with me. And I don't know what it is. And I don't know how to help him.
Yeah. And it's so sad. Of course, we, the reader, knows what it is. Everybody has concluded that the demons are there to spread infection. They're not there to kill because there's like these random attacks and they're just like getting like scratching people and then like fucking off. So it's like, somebody is controlling them. What could that be? All good stuff. There's mentions of pyxuses. There's all of those wooden shards with alchemical symbols. Did you know immediately what that was?
When they said the Pixis box, I think I sent you a crying emoji because I knew the immediate connection with Will and why he ran away and his dad and the Pixis demon. But we also knew from like one of the other anthologies, I can't remember off the top of my head, where they also brought a Pixis demon for like the kid, like I say the kids, for James and Lucy to like practice their Shadowhunter skills when they were younger. Like it was in Shadowhunters Academy because they were like like finding Jack the Ripper and killing him.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's such good stuff. Lucy, though, as long as we're talking about Lucy has a power, and that power rears its head here. I think really for the first time that she notices it, because Lucy's like, everybody's looking around the apartment, and Lucy's like, I'm going to go in this door. And she walks in this door, and there's a body there. And all of a sudden, she's talking to the ghost of Emmanuel Gast, and she's asking questions. And he's like, I don't want to answer you, but I have to. He's like, how are you doing this? What are you? This monstrous power? Like, what the absolute shit are you making me answer? But we get some plot.
We still don't know at the end of this book, though, right? Like, I'm not going crazy. Okay.
Right. We can guess that it has to do with her, like, Tessa's, grandfather demon connection, but we have no idea at all. Okay. We can just speculate. But Gast here tells us that someone paid him to raise a death dealer that will only kill Shadowhunters, and he captured it as a gift for his hiring person, and that person came to him masked and cloaked. He had no idea who it was, and that is that. And Lucy's like, get out of here, go. And he's like, fucking off, and he goes. And it is also a quiet moment here, and Jess, I know that you picked up on this from reading your notes, but Lucy's very shaken by this. And it's here where Matthew gives her his coat, and he like buttons it up like it's the most important thing that he's ever done. And he just takes extra care with Lucy. And of course, Lucy has no feelings for Matthew, and that's discussed later, but that's just like a little quiet moment that I assume gets overlooked, but I saw.
I feel like I've speculated a lot with my notes. There's moments he has with Lucy. There's moments he has with Cordelia. And no matter which way, it could be a love, it could be platonic, it could be romantic, whatever is happening, you don't necessarily know, because there's also knowing that Matthew is James's parabatai. It could be said like, well, of course he's going to be like this. Like even when they were fighting the demons and Grace doesn't know how to fight a bone in her body. So James was staying with her. He was looking to see where Lucy and Cordelia were, and they're fighting. They're soon to be parabatai. They are trained, but Matthew is also like shielding them like a third lookout to make sure nobody was attacking them also. So I love Matthew. That I will say. Do we love James? Yes, but he's also being a stupid boy. So I'm not loving him right now. Who I do love, Matthew, right away.
Yeah.
He's a flirt. He's the best friend. I always like the best friend.
He's wonderful. Speaking of wonderful, is the tradition of stealing carriages, and
it was so good.
And that's just like that is amazing. So after this Emmanuel Gast excursion, everybody goes back to the Institute, and Will and Tessa are just like, you took the fucking carriage. Like we gotta go places. And James and Lucy are like, whoa.
Well, you know what? And it's like, it's an ongoing joke at this point, because at one point, and this isn't the first occasion that something has happened, where James says, well, Dad, when you were my age, and Will's like, I'm really not liking you constantly throwing this shit in my face of how when I was a kid, you were doing way worse than I was, Dad.
It's just so amazing. That's why we love Will and Tessa.
But Cordelia comes through in this part too. She's like, they're so quick to go to like, oh my God, Lucy and James, like, what are you doing? Like, we have places to go, people to see. Like, we need this specific carriage because it's protected with the runes, and it's very like, there's like specifics that go with Shadowhunter carriages. And Cordelia's like, hey guys, like, thanks so much for letting them. And she's in her gear. Thanks for letting them pick me up. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on. You know, you don't want me roaming the streets around. I'm just a little girl, and I'm a Carstairs. And this, I mean, Cordelia has Will wrapped around his finger. Lucy knows this. James knows this. Tessa, they're all like, just because she has the last name Carstairs, Will. And he's like, whatever. Like, you don't know what y'all are talking about. But whatever you need, Cordelia, you are just the best thing that's ever happened to this family.
It's like, it's fine. We have a high-level meeting with Charles that I can't take seriously. Maybe I'll spank him. And Matthew's like, yes, please spank him. please. And so they leave. And then meanwhile, everybody is questioning Jessamine. Like, Jessamine can ghost lie. Like, what's going on? Necromancy. You can control ghosts with necromancy. Okay. And while they're having this conversation, Charles's carriage rolls up and Tatiana had been attacked. So Tatiana and Grace go to the infirmary. And this is where Grace and James have it out and like break up more or less, which is just like, I know that Grace is a very like divisive character. I have a lot of feelings about Grace, but I really like that Grace is just like, you know what? I'm marrying Charles. I have things to do. My mom is fucking unconscious. I got to make moves while I can. And I'm making these moves. And then, of course, like she throws it in his face. She's like, I asked you first. You said no. I went to plan B. My moves are being made.
You had your chance kind of thing.
Yeah. And he's just like, what is going on? and then this is the best part. She's like, give me my bracelet. Give me my bracelet. I imagine that her plan was then to give that bracelet to Charles. That is what I was thinking, but she never did. I think then...
But how would that make sense? Because I thought the bracelet was to be with Belial. And then the Belial connection... Like, Belial isn't Charles's grandfather.
I know. I'm saying that she never gave it to Charles. So I'm thinking like she
had like a different plan?
I'm thinking that she doesn't know all of Tatiana's plans. So she just thought it was like a love, like a love charm and not a like needs to bind him so that like Belial can come in and like do this whole thing. So when she takes it off of him, I had assumed that she would give it to Charles to lock him in and to make him fight for her as fiance when Tatiana woke up.
Okay.
That was my feeling. Of course, that's not the case. That's not the case at all. But James, being free of this bracelet, flees and goes through just like a transformation, and he becomes a different person from here until he gets it snapped back on him. It's also here where Lucy and Matthew have a little conversation about like he's not really a boy. Like, he's just Matthew.
He's getting friend zoned by Lucy, and he's just like getting a 1-2 punch. He's like, I'm not sure I should leave you alone with a man. And Lucy's like, pish posh, he's not a man. Like, Matthew's like, hello, right here. And then she's like, but you're like a brother to me. And he flinched, visibly flinched. And she's like, I'm gonna pretend I didn't see that.
Yep. And he's drunk at that point too, which is important for later on. It's here where Cordelia and Anna go to see Ariadne, and Anna has a very quiet moment with Ariadne being like, I'll protect you. We'll solve this, because she still loves her. And this is also where she's like, Charles broke up with her and he's going to marry Grace now.
So I have a question that kind of goes back to this like love bracelet, or what we're assuming at this point. At this point, Grace is like, I'm going to get this new man. And then she's just like, why is James so upset with me? And Math, because they call him Math too. Matthew is also like, you dumb bitch. Like, he's in love with you. You disregard him. Like, fuck you and the horse you rode in on. And who gives you the right to be upset about him now? That's not your place. And I'm his parabatai. I care about him more than you ever will, kind of thing. But then she puts a spell compulsion. And next thing you know, Matthew is like, oh my God, all I want is to kiss this woman. She lures him in. They make out for a hot second, and she's like, now if you say anything to James, I'm going to tell him that you made out with me, and this is just like a huge thing. My question is, what is that? Because she didn't put the bracelet on him.
That's answered later on in the books. But again, she's saying like, I'm doing what I have to do. And then Matthew's like, well, you don't have any feelings for James. And she's like, feelings. All anyone ever talks about is fucking feelings. I'm trying to secure my goddamn future. I have to do what I must. I don't feel tenderness for nobody. Like Grace at this point is like a cold OG here. Like, she's cold as hell. And
it's not even about securing the bag. She's just trying to get away from her toxic and abusive mother.
Yeah, in any way that she can at this point. But yeah, I mean, the blackmailing, not awesome. All of this is like not awesome. But again, Grace, like, very complicated, very complicated. James goes to Blackfriars Bridge because Blackfriars Bridge has a deep meaning in the Herondale family. On that England trip that I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, I also went to Blackfriars Bridge, and there's a picture of me.
Is that the one you're doing the selfie where you're just like, look where I am?
No, there's actually one of me. I'm standing next to the plaque that says Blackfriars Bridge.
Oh, it's like a nighttime photo, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
yep,
okay.
It's a nighttime photo because I got off at the train stop there. And so James is sitting on Blackfriars Bridge. Would not recommend that now, but back then, I'm sure it was lovely. Matthew finds him there, and that's where they have the conversation, Jess, that you alluded to earlier of like, give me this burden that you're telling me. Like, you can tell me, like, Matthew, I know that you've lost your faith. Like, you can tell me your burden. And he doesn't. He's like, I just thought my life would be one thing, and it's not, is as far as he gets with that confession, which is just like so sad. I just always feel so bad for Matthew. Oh, but we also have the memory of Matthew talking about Magnus. Ducks, embrace me as your king. He's like, you had one chance to make a good impression on Magnus Bane for all of us, and you ruin it.
I love it.
It's just so good.
Well, and this is just like, I think we had an episode, it was probably one of our Shadowhunters episodes, or even like a Holly Black one, where we were like, Easter eggs, like, bitches love Easter eggs, and we are bitches. Like, all the references between the Demon Pox songs and the ducks. I mean, even there was like a spot on the ceiling at one point, and James is like, that looks like a duck. I really shouldn't tell my dad about that. He'd lose his shit.
Yeah, he's like, oh my God, no, I can't even mention it. But James is still feeling the after effects of this enchantment coming off of him. And Matthew is like, hey, you want to get drunk? And Matthew is drinking like terrible, terrible gin. And James has one sip and like falls off the wall and wakes up at the Institute. Matthew's like, I told your parents you were just a huge lightweight.
They were disappointed. That was the best part. They were like, our son, really? Great. But and it's funny, not funny, haha, but the backstory with the parents at this, or depending on the order you read it in, if you've read the Infertile Devices by this point, when Will would not be sober, he was dealing with some heavy shit. So you flash back to the Ducks Embrace Me as Your King, or whenever they know that James isn't the most sober person, they're like, he's dealing with something. Unless he's with all the guys, then he's like, oh, he's having fun with the boys. Because it's a good group of friends. If sometimes, if we're fortunate, you have a group of friends that your parents love, that your parents will love. You could be out till all hours of the day, and that friend is the most perfect friend in your parents' eyes. And that's how this group is. They can do no wrong.
They can do no wrong. And they're all like, high-ranking kids. We love that. We love that so much. Speaking of, Grace is going to go live with the Pouncebees, and James is feeling light and happy. And Matthew wakes him up, and he's like, hey, what's going on? Like, let's start the day. How do you feel? And James is like, fucking rad. I feel rad. And it's also here where Matthew intercepts the letter that his mother has written and is like, hey, James, go give this to Cordelia. She's in the training room. Go give this to Cordelia. And James is like, I need socks, Cordelia. And I'm
just going to use that as the excuse.
Yeah, I forgot my socks. And he goes and gives the letter to Cordelia, who reads it. And she learns like her dad has no memory of the battle because he was drunk. We know this. But James starts to have these memories again. Every time he sees Cordelia, he has memories. And this memory is of the fever, and he dismisses it. He's like, God, though, she's fucking gorgeous. It's like, yeah, James, Yeah, she is. Dummy. Big dumb. Ugh, whatever. But they all end up at the devil, and they decide that the box was a Pyxis, and that the demon is a manticore, right? Because Cordelia is just like, oh, wait a minute. In Persian, and she just starts spitting facts. She's spitting facts about the manticore, and they're like, oh, good to know.
And then when they do see this manticore, it was like, oh, she was right.
No, she's totally right. She's like, yeah, the manticore, the great poisoner. He splits himself into little pieces, whatever. Let's go trap him in a Pyxis, just like Emmanuel Gas did. He lives in in between places on a bridge. How are we going to get a Pyxis? Oh, there's a Pyxis in the Hell Ruel in Hypatia Vex's room. How are we going to get that? Anna. And I love,
which I'm upset. She's dedicated to the bit. I absolutely love it.
I love it so much too, because Anna has a little book of conquests, right? And she goes through and she's going through, and she's like, all right, fine, I will do this. James is like, are you sure? Are you sure you can? You've already been there. Are you sure you can do it again? And Anna's like, I know what you're doing and it's working. Yeah, I'll do it. I can. And I will.
And I do it well, bitch.
And I do it well. And she does. And it's fantastic. It's great. And then this is a very quiet moment that I love so much, because James walks Cordelia home, and he's starting to understand that he's getting flustered around her, and they're having this conversation, and, they're just talking, and then Cordelia's mom opens the door, and James is like, I remember the tea that you made me, and I remember all of this, and she's like, yeah, come over for tea, He's like, I love tea. Tea's great. Yay, I'll come.
Yay, tea.
And he's like, oh my God, what? And it's just a really sweet little moment that I really adore between them. And also, after this, Cordelia and Alistair have a little blowout about Charles, and she's like, I know. And he's like, fuck, I don't like that you know, but don't tell anybody. Meh, meh, meh. So it's a whole thing. We are up to...
Are we going back to the Hell Ruel?
We're going to the Whispering Room is where we're going.
Which is at Hell Ruel.
Yes. The Hell Ruel. Cordelia has a brand new wardrobe from Anna, thank God. It's all beautiful jewel tones. I will pull out my Fake Crate plushie of Cordelia here. This is the bronze dress that she's wearing when she does her dance. I don't have Cortana in her hand. She didn't come with one, but we need Cortana. This dance, fantastic. I love how both Matthew and James are just the whole time. So let's remember that Cordelia's mom was like, I'm going to give you all the popular colors for the season, not what colors work for Cordelia. And Anna's like, I got you, like Laura said. So she comes out and she's like, this dress is tight. And it is very, again, we're in the 1900s. It is very revealing. Can't wear a petticoat. Curves are curving. She is looking snatched. And James is speechless. He's just openly drooling. The boys are just like, hey, looking good, Cordy. Anna's like, yeah, she is. And they're off doing their thing. James still can't get anything out of his mouth. And they are at the Hell Ruel. They have to do the thing. Anna's like, peace, y'all. I got shit I gotta do. Y'all do whatever you need to do. And then Laura was talking about a dance. Well, yeah. So they're like, we're looking for entertainment. We need a distraction while Anna works her charms on Hypatia. So Cordelia is like, all right, I'll do it. So she gets up there on the stage with some music accompaniment and Cortana, and she does her sword practice movements, but she says a story while she does it, and it's just captivating everybody. And they say everyone's going to be talking about that dance for years to come, and it'll be fantastic. Right after that, Charles walks in and everyone's like, oh, fuck, Charles is here. So James and Cordelia run into the whispering room that has an enchanted fire that we learn about later on in the books. And whispering room is where we have a hot and heavy makeout session between Cordelia and James. And I swear, if that door hadn't opened, Cordelia and James would have been on that couch. Oh, yeah.
Easy, because he was already like all up on her tits. Like he was in it. They were both in it. And the only reason they stopped was because the door opened. Then they pretend, once the people kept going and they closed the door, they were like, oh, don't you hear that? That sounds like people are coming again. We might as well keep going.
Keep going.
Meanwhile, like nobody was coming into the room. The only time the next person that did come into the room was Matthew, and he was like, hey, y'all.
And Cordelia's shoes are in the middle of the room.
Yeah, like everything, like she's like legs around his waist, pressed against the wall. She's like, oh, we just in case somebody came in. And he's like, uh-huh. Anyway, Anna's done. And here's the information we need.
Yeah, so like Anna gives the Pyxis. We get a glimpse of Anna's necklace. And yeah, it's just like, all right, we got the Pyxis. You guys don't have to make out anymore. And both James and Cordelia are like, all right, cool. We're acting. Actors. We have the mention of the star on James's collar. Of course, that's the Herondale birthmark left from the angel when Will and Tessa went bang bang in the cave. He does call her my Daisy, my Daisy. James. While that's happening, Lucy and Thomas and Christopher are spying the fuck out of the Institute's enclave meeting. We love it. We love that Lucy is using a rune that her dad taught her. Go off, Will. And we're learning. There's 6 attacks. 25 people are sick. All of them are moved to the Silent City. Here's the quarantine. We are on 3 groups of research, day patrols, night patrols. It's not enough. Charles will act as the consul in London because of the quarantine. It is what it is. After that, it's just so funny the way that things go. Everyone is like, you know what? We have to make sure that this Pyxis is empty. Right? We got to make sure this Pyxis is empty. This is James, Thomas, Cordelia, Lucy, Christopher, and Matthew. They're like, where can we do this? Where can we safely open a Pyxis? Well, obviously we'll do it in the sanctuary. And Jessica, can you say with a straight face who walks into the sanctuary? Or can you only say it with a smile?
Only with a smile, because it's Magnus.
What is going on here? Magnus?
I do understand their practicality, though. They were like, well, we needed to get one demon into a box, so we had to let the other demon out.
So we had to let the other one out.
Yes. But no. But I see where you're coming from. And now we have Matthew fanboying. Oh my God, Mr. Bane, I love your work.
It's like, I love your work. Also, the demon recognizes James here and is like, I am free. I will retrieve my master's lost world. That's a little just plot, just like thrown in there for us. A boon, blah, blah, blah. And James absolutely just kills it. Practical Magnus, why aren't you just telling your parents? Your parents are cool. Like, what are you doing?
The last time I saw you, you were drunk as a skunk.
Yeah. And they're like, well, Ragnar told us not to tell him. And he's like, well, if Ragnar said not to tell him, well, then I guess I will tolerate your bullshit for a little bit. And I'm 6 hours early for my meeting because I came in from India. So like, what are we on about? Let's go. And Cordelia is like, cool. We're going to go find a manticore. Can you create another tower bridge so that we can do this? And Magnus is like, I guess, but if the bullshit gets too bullshitty, I'm telling your parents. So let's go.
Another cool uncle moment.
Yeah, we love it. Magnus also says hey, that dirt that you got is from Belfador's land. Like Jem called me. I analyzed that shit for you. So it's from Belfador. James is like, maybe that's my grandpa. It's not. But we have this big battle, like big manticore battle here under the bridge. We can distill it down basically into Cordelia stabs the fuck out of it. And I love it so much. She doesn't hesitate. She just goes, woo.
And this isn't the first time either. Because it happens again later in the book. She uses Cortana. We get flashbacks of like Cortana she always felt called to it, but Cortana chooses her. She and her, like, they just have like, and that's just how weapons work in fantasy world. Just like the wand chooses the sword chose Cordelia. This is also the part where she's such a badass, but falls into the Thames.
Yes. She falls into the Thames, and Lucy goes to save her and commands. Lucy goes to the river and she goes, help me, someone help me. And all of the ghosts in the river and Jesse answer her call. Of course, she doesn't know this until later on.
She only sees Jesse, so she thought that Jesse was helping her out of his own volition. Nobody else can see the ghosts, James included. So everybody's like, oh, the boaters helped Cordelia out of the water.
Yep. Meanwhile, the manticore, who is dying, does say, like, I am Legion. Like, come with me. You'll be honored. Like, if you come with me right now, I will end all of this, like, destruction that's going on, James. Like, come with me to your grandfather's realm. Like, you can't kill me. James is like, get fucked. And, he disappears. And Lucy then wakes up in the Institute. And this is where, Jess, you were like, Will is saying, stop throwing all this shit in my face. Like, I get it. It is also here where Lucy's like, you know what? Like, danger isn't just for boys. Like, you did all this riskier stuff. Like, James has Cortana, though. Like, Cordelia went home. Right? Like, Matthew took Cordelia home. And this is the explanation of the green carnation that we just love so much. Matthew, you are an artist. You're just fantastic. But it is here where James brings Cortana to Cordelia in the middle of the fucking night.
Like, they made it a point. It is after midnight. His sister, like, everybody's kind of healing. Matthew brought Cordelia home. Lucy's still here. They say, like, Cordelia's mom's like, where is Cortana? And she's like, oh, fuck. Like, there was that battle. At this point, all the parents at least are aware. There was no lies to be spun. There was a demon battle. Their kids were fighting it. And it was just kind of like, well, we knew it was too good to be true. It was going to happen one day that Shadowhunter children were going to be fighting the demons. So James is like, I know what I'll do. I'll bring Cortana it's past midnight. I'll bring it to Cordelia. And he is looking like a drowned rat. And Will is like, hey, you might want to look a little bit spiffy for social calls, especially if it's after midnight for this girl that I know I can see. You're like, hard eyes over.
Yeah, so he goes, and Sonar is just like, bet. I will leave you unsupervised.
And closes the door. Like, it wasn't just like, I'll leave you guys to talk, but I'll leave the door open. She was like, click,
click, click, which is so funny because they're like so proper, but they're like flirting a little bit. And they're like, I kissed you, all of this stuff. And, here's Cortana. They're having their moment. And then Alistair is like, what the fuck is this? What the fuck is this?
Mom might not care, but I fucking do.
I care. Get out. And James is like, you know what? Your sister's the only reason I'm not punching you in your fucking face right now. Like, fuck you and the horse that you rode in on, Alistair. But then James leaves, and Alistair confesses to Cordelia everything about their childhood and about Elias being a drunk for their entire life. And Cordelia is just like, whoa, there's a lot. That's a lot to process right now.
Her whole childhood was flipped upside down from her memories. And then she also kind of held her brother accountable for a way to be like, well, why did you do that? And he's like, because I wanted you to have that treasured memory because I didn't. So, yeah. And that you get more flashbacks too of how he was in high school too. Like, she's like, were you really a bully? And he goes, eat or get eaten.
Yeah. And, you know, he said it is what it is. You know, I was getting made fun of. Like, our status was what it was. And I was just like, you know what? No. And I became what I had to do. I had to do what I had to do to survive, which is kind of like a theme here. And we do feel bad because, like, this happened when Alistair was like 10 or Cordelia was like 10. So, like, it was everything. It was all of Alistair's childhood, and Cordelia was shielded as much as she could. But, like, you know, they moved around a lot, trying to find the right climate. He was sick all the time. It's very hard. It does make her childhood a little bit tainted. And we do see, like, a little bit later on in other books, like, how that kind of impacts her. It's very interesting. James, our James, he's always forever going places. He goes to Matthew's house, and there's an energy here. They're like, there's energetic clouds. We're waiting for the shoe to drop. Like, because Christopher is convinced that he can make an antidote to the demon poison that has all of these people sick. And he says, we need some dark magic plants. And James is like, bet, Tatiana's got those. Let's go. And there's an attack. There's an attack, and I have to tell you, every time I read this, I get so nervous. Every time Oscar, the dog, comes in and saves Matthew, I'm just like, every single time.
Fair.
But we love. But it is just during this attack that took everybody by surprise because it happened in the consul's front fucking yard. Christopher here is scratched by a demon, and Christopher goes down, and he has to go to the Silent City. And here is also where Charles and Alistair are just like, hey, we saw the demon. What's going on? And it's like, where were you? But it's not addressed.
What were y'all doing? Well, now that we know, yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's like, what's going on?
But because Christopher was hurt by a demon, he is now poisoned. He also grabbed onto Will, clutched onto him. This is the part where James.
This is later.
This is later?
Yeah.
Okay, then I thought I was thinking of this part. Okay, never mind.
No, you're very close. This is the reveal that Sonar has to Cordelia that she is pregnant, right? We have this. We have Jem and the Silent City and the infirmary, and everybody's busy.
And then is this the part where people become possessed and they're like, James, they're like, I'm looking for Jem, you know, like James Carstairs, and then they latch on to the James name and they're like, James, like all they're like possessed and chanting his name. All get up, what do they describe it? Like puppets and marionettes, and their eyes go black and they're just chanting his name about, like, the demons are basically looking for him. They're looking for the Lord of Thieves, which is one of the princes of hell, turning out to be James's grandfather. So biological grandfather. So Tessa's biological father. Yeah. Which is still so weird because you think of a demon, a prince of hell, it's so many years. And he says that. He's like, you all think of like years and like decades and centuries. Like, we're thinking in millennia.
Yeah, they're playing the long game, which is exactly it, because there's a note sent to everybody that from Jem, quote, 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 that's like, come, I need to talk to you. I need to talk to you. Come alone. So, Matthew, they all go, and everything, Cordelia's there. They all start chanting, just as you say. This is where the scratching happens. And, Ariadne starts talking, and this is where they say, like, you've been summoned by the Lord of Thieves. Your blood will open the gate. You carry the taint now. And this is where Jem comes in and like bangs his staff and is like, what the fuck is going on? What is this? Get the fuck out of here. You were not supposed to be here. Get out. And there's evil afoot. And this is where, they flee the Silent City, and Matthew and James goes out ahead. Matthew feels like the parabatai, pull, and is like, something is really wrong. And that is where we run into James and an archway. There's rope. There's another realm. There's a lot going on.
A lot is always going on in these books.
Always a lot going on in these books. So what do we have? We have an archway appears, and it's like, you're never going to rise. What is going to happen? So Matthew James, and Cordelia tie a rope around James. James uses his taint. He goes through the archway. Matthew's like holding the rope. They're all waiting. It's a whole thing. James goes into the shadow realm, and hello, his grandpa is Belial. He is a prince of hell. He is a thief. He stole the realm from the other person we mentioned earlier. I cannot think of his name right now.
Balfagor?
Balfagor, yes. And Belial's whole shtick is that he can never rise. That means he can never like truly walk on Earth. Now, Jess, we have met Belial before. We have met Belial in Ghost of the Shadow Market. We met him in Tennessee. Belial.
When they're on the mountains?
When they are at that weird shadow market that popped up in Tennessee in the mountains, and Jem and that Iron Sister go to the fair.
And the Iron Sister's like, listen the fuck to me. You know who I am. You know what I can do to you?
Mm-hmm. Give Jem some peace. Give him a moment with his parabatai. Let them run together while they're young through the streets of London. That's Belial.
But that's happening in like the 1920s, 1940s, 1960s. This is way after right now. What do we not know? Why is he being so nice?
Moving on. Haha. So Belial is the one who hired Gast. Belial is the one who raised the Manticore. Jess, if you remember in that story, Belial is masked in the fair in Tennessee, and he doesn't have like a true form because it's all the mirrors. So he's reflected in the mirror. Okay. So see, this is why we read everything. All right. So Belial's whole shtick is that he can't like walk on the earth. He needs a body, right? He needs like a blood relative body. He like burns through like normal people that he tries to possess. So he needs you to volunteer, James. James, I'd like you to be a little bit older, but you're fine now, James. So volunteer, and I will make all of these demon attacks. I'll make all of this stop, but I will walk the earth in your body. And James is like,
James says yes. He gives him he's skeptical, gives him permission, and then Belial is like, actually, you kind of have the poison in you now, so your sister would be better because she's healthier. And he's like, I think the fuck not. You stay away from my sister.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I think the absolute fuck not. So the rope starts to go really tight, right? Because they're like having a battle. There's all of these things. And Cordelia is like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. So Cordelia cuts through the archway barrier that is right there outside of the entrance to the Silent City with Cortana. And she goes to the Shadow Realm, and, you know, there's shards everywhere. There's all of this stuff. And James is like, Daisy, is that you? And then there's a Manticore attack. While that fucking shit is happening.
Something's always happening.
Yeah. Lucy and Thomas are at the greenhouse, and Thomas goes to get the plants, and Lucy again is just like, I'm going to go explore. And Lucy stumbles upon Grace talking to Jesse in his glass coffin. And they have like a little moment, and Lucy's like listening to her talk about everything. And this is where she overhears Grace being scolded about taking the bracelet off of James. It's like, you shouldn't remove the enchantment. You have to put it back on. I'll strengthen it. Like, he can destroy you. Like, he, Belial, can destroy you. Like, what's going to happen if James shows up and he's not wearing the fucking bracelet? Like, you got to get it. But this is when Lucy saves from the demon attack Grace, and, you know, Jesse's there. Jesse kills it, and then everyone's like the Spider-Man meme, where it's like,
"How do you see?"
How do you see?
Because at first, Jesse, the spirit, isn't there. She, as in Grace, is just talking to Jesse, the physical body, which is kept in like a Snow White glass case, and even Lucy's like, this is. Even though I know there's like necromantic, like Shadowhunter stuff going on, this is still really fucking weird. I mean, and it is. She's just like, and Mom won't understand, and you'll get it. And she's like, okay.
Yeah, it's like, really, really, all right. This is all weird. We're gonna fuck off. We're gonna fuck off. So what happens then is that Lucy's like, hey, we have the antidote. Thomas, you have to go make it. I don't know how to make it. Meanwhile, I need to go to my brother. Where's my brother? Hey, Jesse, where's my brother? And Jesse's like, Bet, where's your brother? Your brother is in Highgate. There's some shit going down. And Lucy's like, all right, take me to Highgate. And Jesse's like, what? And Lucy's like,
yeah, she doesn't know how. Yeah. She was just like, I don't know how I can control you, because she finds out, and it comes from knowing that the ghost had saved Cordelia, that she was just like, hey, Jesse, thanks for saving my bestie. And Jesse's like, I didn't do that. You demanded us. I just answered your call. So she's like, I don't know what that means. And now she's like, please don't hate me. And he's like, don't make me do this. And she was like, you're taking me right now. And she's like, poof, they're there.
Yep. Poof. Thomas, meanwhile, goes to make the antidote. He runs into Alistair and Charles, who give him a little bit of shit, but he ends up making it, and that is absolutely awesome. If we go back to our battle, this is again where Cortana just stabs Belial in the chest. Like, she's done with his shit. She's done with it. She's done with James and his shit. Just shut the fuck up. Let's get the fuck out of here. And essentially, she splits the sky open, and James and Cortana just fall out of the sky. It's very Emma and Julian. And they fall out of the sky, and they just smash into the fucking ground. Cordelia's got a broken leg. And this is where James is like dying, right? Like, Matthew feels like the parabatai mark. It's all very dramatic. And then we've got Lucy popping up with Jesse. Just tell me about it.
So, oh goodness, where to start? Two different things are going on. They're focusing on James. James is on his last breath. And what we also know is that Jesse has a locket of his last breath because of the stories that he shared with Lucy about how necromancy works and how his last breath was supposed to revive him with some sort of necromancy demon that that Tatiana had made some sort of bargain with. And she knew, Lucy knew that if anything was going to happen to Cordelia or something, Jesse would have used that last breath on Cordelia because he knew how much that meant to her. So here we are, knowing how much James means to Lucy. And honestly, just Jesse realizing that, like, Shadowhunters aren't that bad. The bullshit that Tatiana is saying, he's like, she's fucking crazy. And she's deluded in herself and her revenge and her misplaced anger. Thank you, Lucy, for giving me this moment, for letting me fight and share and be a part of the Shadowhunter life, because I never got that. And Jesse quite literally gives his last dying breath to James, which allows James to have some sort of life force to help Matthew use the healing runes, which when runes are given by a parabatai, they're stronger, they're all this stuff. And so they begin to work.
Yes.
So we have James come back. Yeah.
And all is well. And what does James do? James crawls over to Cordelia and it's just like, thank you so much for everything. Like, you and me, let's read together, all of this stuff. And you're just like, all right. Here, there's really something here. And then Cordelia and Alistair leave because the Enclave is coming. Everybody's coming to save everybody. Everyone's going to fuss over everyone. Cordelia and Alistair leave. And Alistair says, I had faith in Thomas. I knew he could do it. I knew, all of that. But it's when James wakes up the next morning, Matthew's there with him, of course, always Matthew, our blessed Matthew. Fucking Grace shows up. Grace shows up before Cordelia. Grace shows up and Matthew is like, Grace is here. She wants to talk to you. Fuck this bitch. And James is like, nah, I'll talk to her. I feel so good. All is so good. I'm going to go see Cordelia. My heart is screaming for Cordelia. I will deal with this bitch first. Bring her in. And she slaps that bracelet on his wrist. I remember the first time I read this, I was like, no.
You saw my reaction. I was like, fuck, no. Because she was very insistent. Like, I need to talk to him alone.
Yeah.
And Matthew was like, I fucking hate her. Like, he was just over her bullshit for the longest time since the beginning because he's like, I don't know what he's using her.
Yeah. And but the thing too is like Grace confesses it. Grace like lays it out. She's like, it's this, it's this, it's this, it's this, it's all of these things. Bang, 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 bang. Snap on the bracelet. And James doesn't have any of that like memory. He's just like, oh my God, it's Grace. It's Grace. Loyalty binds me to Grace. I'll do anything for you. You know, they kiss and she's like, all right, go kill the automaton in my house if you love me.
They kiss and Matthew and Cordelia walk in on it because Matthew is like, this, like, Grace is in here, but Cordelia showed up. Like, I'm gonna rally. This is my friend. We're gonna get this girl out of here. And they're close. They're close with a closed door. We know this is 1900s. Gonna keep emphasizing that. So they're just like, stopped dead in their tracks. Cordelia's all like, I wore my nicest dress, and she's like,
she brought the book to read. Yeah.
She's like, oh my God, thank God he didn't see the book. Like, everything that she's thinking going on in her head, anybody would be like the same way. Or like the pit in her stomach, her heart dry, like every single emotion where she's like, it was all a dream. I must have made it all up in my head.
Yeah. And Cordelia sees the bracelet on his wrist. She's like, great. And she's like, James is a different person. Like, it's just all, it's awful. It's just all awful. But then it's just like, all right, like, let's go. Everybody good? We all good? All right. And then they just fuck off. It's like, oh all right. Okay. He does save Cordelia though. We absolutely love that when he, what does he do?
Are we talking about after they burn down the Blackthorn Manor?
Mm-hmm.
So they're up against the Clave. The Clave's like, James, or I should say, Tatiana's like, boo, you have demon blood. And James is like, yeah, tell me something new. And then they're like, use the truth, the sword of truth, the moral sword or whatever it's called. That way he can't lie about burning down my house. And in a panic, because the people who do know what's going on know what's happening. And Cordelia's like, he wasn't burning down the house because he was with me all night long. And everybody's like, oh, gasp, oh my gosh, scandal. And we know that this means that she, quote unquote, is ruined in the Shadowhunter eyes of society. And it's alluded to in the beginning of the book that if things like this ever happen, you always hope that the man involved, it will do the quote unquote gentlemanly thing to do and do right by the woman and marry her. So like it's less of a scandal or whatever. And so he's like, you have to take it back. You have to, I will. And she's like, no, like we're friends. This is what friends do. Like whatever. And it also kind of like, I feel like it's a little freeing for her too, because she's like, now I don't have the pressure. Nobody's going to want to marry me. I didn't want to marry anybody anyway, unless it was James, and he already loves this other girl. So like, no. So then we're having a one-on-one moment and James is like, I have to talk to you. And he's like, this isn't great. How about I marry you? And she's like, you're with Grace. You don't love me. And I'll be damned if you think you can just marry me and then like fuck around behind my back. And he's like, okay, I get it. But like, we're still besties. Let's just still get married. And for a year, just for a year, clear your name. We can get divorced and it'll be fine. And she's not even like, she's like, this is everything I wanted and not how I wanted it at all. She's devastated.
And he's like, don't worry, Cordelia, love will find you one day. It's like, oh, James. This Enclave meeting, little details. Tatiana is going to go to the Iron Sisters because she's just been like devastated by grief. It's not her fault. She goes to the Iron Sisters. Okay, whatever. We'll see her again. Magnus is there and Magnus is like, yo, Tatiana tried to hire me to do all this bullshit. Like, I'm just throwing that out there.
When he was like, James most certainly definitely wasn't at the Blackthorn Manor. Like, everyone's like, he's laying it on a little thick.
It's like, all right, Magnus. All right. So after James proposes, Will and Sonar and Tessa are just like, they all like burst in the room. They're like, what is going on here? But then immediately Will is like, oh my God, you're the best person that was ever been. We will be, bonded more closely together now. Just fantastic. Will is.
But Tessa suspected, like right away, she's like, something fishy's going on. She doesn't know what, but she knows her son, and she knows Cordelia a little bit, especially with like the one-on-one moments that they've had. And she's like, this is something's happening, and this isn't it. So we're gonna look to Cordelia's mom. Like, are you cool with this? Because I guess if you are, then we'll stand behind that.
Yeah, and Sonar is like totally fine with it. So that's good. And good things are happening to Cordelia too, because later Alistair says that like Elias, their father, is going to be released. Like, Cordelia, you did it. Like, you're a hero now. You can ask for things. It's bad form to like prosecute the father of a hero. Like,
it's all about optics for the Clave, and it always has been. So that's why they're just like, what would it look for them if they had the hero's father? And Jem shows up and he's like, hey, Cordy, got your message. And she's like, I was really hoping that I don't think you got it soon enough because, he has, a substance abuse problem. He is an alcoholic, and probably the best way for him to get the help that he would have needed is if he was in that forced rehab at the Silent City. And Jem was like, ooh, my bad.
Yeah, he's like, so why don't you write to them and say that you want him to go to the Basilius for treatment? And she's like, all right, I will. Speaking of optics, Alistair is not dyeing his hair anymore. Alistair has his black hair back. And that is revealed when we get to the engagement party of James and Cordelia, which is like kind of taken over by Charles because he announces his engagement to Grace. I hate that shit. I hate when people do that.
I hate that because that's exactly, he wanted the attention on him. He always does, which is so fucking weird. Like, again, no. You know what it is? It's like the Sophie Turner Joe stuff where he's trying to be cool and like, he's just not. Team Sophie, by the way.
Yeah, he's just not. He's just not. So he's like, bah, thank you. All of this, bah, me. And everyone's like, shut up, Charles. Like, it is not the time. But also, Alistair really takes that onto himself too, because Alistair and Charles break up here. And they're like, I deserve someone that'll stand up for me. Like, fuck this. Like, fuck all of this. I'm done. I'm done.
And this is a nice part of Alistair's and Cordelia's relationship too, because now that Cordelia's like, hey, I know about y'all, we know in a letter that Alistair wrote to Charles is like, hey, by the way, my sister knows and you can get fucked. Like, whatever you want to say, you can say it in front of her. And so they have that fight, and Alistair grabs her, drags her along to this conversation because Charles is like, I need to talk to you, grabs him. So it's like this chain effect. And he's like, whatever you could say in front of my sister. And Charles is like, oh, you were for real about that. But in that moment, there's a vulnerability because he's like, yeah, you could say it in front of her. But it was also I need her here to help me stay strong because I don't know if I can do it by myself.
Yeah, and that is just echoed because Alistair does leave the party crying because Matthew just goes off on him. And he's like, all right, let's go. Let's go. You want to talk about why I don't fucking like you? It's because you told the lies. You talked about the parentage. You put in all of these doubts. Like, what the absolute shit? All of these rumors. Like, you've ruined our families. Like, all of it. And Thomas.
You made my sister cry, my cousin cry,
Yeah.
our moms cry. Like, our parents. Like, it's not just these rumors that kind of, back before, at a point where if there were rumors, it stayed within the school or something, and your parents never really heard about the things that were going on. Like, it got into the parents' ears. Like, they were just so hurt for themselves, for their kids. Like, everything was so intertwined. And he, as an Alistair, contributed to that.
Yeah, and this is where Thomas and him kind of like end their like thing or whatever too, because Thomas is just like, fuck you. We have declarations. Lucy declares to Jesse that she will bring him back. She promises. Ariadne promises to Anna that she will win her back. I will win your love back, all of this stuff. Like, I heard you. Will and Cordelia are dancing, and they have a very beautiful, like, future father-in-law, daughter-in-law moment. It's very lovely. We can have a celebration or we cannot.
And while that is happening, James is just like on the balcony being super contemplative about like everything that's happening. And, once again, Grace rolls up and walks out onto the balcony, and she's like, hey, Will. And then, hey, James. And James is telling her basically how it's all a ruse. And she's like, oh, great. So, like, y'all can get divorced and we can still do our thing in a year.
Yeah. Yeah. And James is just like, you know what, though? Like, let's not talk about this right now. Like, this is not the time right now. Fuck off for right now. And he's like, Cordelia, he does have this feeling of like, Cordelia. Like, so there's that. But again, he's in this extra strong bracelet. So that sucks. Magnus is there. Of course he is. Magnus is watching the self-destruction of Matthew. And Jess, this is the quote that you said earlier in the episode where, like, if a man brings his own alcohol to an open bar, then there's a problem. That is this moment. And Matthew's like, you know what? Or Magnus is like, you know what? I'm going to stick around. I'm going to stick around and see how this plays out. Like, shit is going down.
Which is so nice because, again, it alludes to how where we were with the Ghost of a Shadow Market, the Bane Chronicles, where he was telling Tessa, he's like, why don't you tell me what's going on? And she's like, why don't you tell me what's going on? And you knew that the correspondences were being kept from each other. And now it's like, I'm going to be here. Like, I love these guys. I might talk shit, but like, they're still my family.
We love them so much. And this is the end now. We are in the epilogue. The epilogue is Belial appears and he is talking to Tatiana. He's like, Tatiana, this is what we want. You are a spy in the Iron Citadel now. We have an in. This is excellent.
You're going to take it and you're going to take them down from the inside too.
Yep. So, and then it's like, bum, bum, bum. Then it ends. There is a bonus story I feel that we should save for something special. I don't know. This is a very long episode. Yeah. I feel like we should
and it doesn't necessarily tie in just yet.
Exactly. So I feel like we should wait and do something with this 1880 very special episode that we have, or little story that we have here. So we will save that.
Yeah. And it's like a 40-minute chapter if you read it at speed. I think it broke it down. So you can guarantee we will talk a lot about that. And
Absolutely.
Every little nuanced thing that's brought up there.
Absolutely. And we can probably do that on like an Instagram live in December.
True.
Right? Like how fun would that be? Just like a little fun. Okay. So that is the end of this book. Shadowhunter books, so much happened in Shadowhunter books. It is really a joy for me to be back in this world and to be back in a series where, and we've said this, ACOFAE and consistency, to be back in a series where like the thing happens, right? All of the things happen. Like this is the plot. It's laying down all the plot. We have so much plot, but like people died, people got sick, like we went to different realms. We did all of this amazing stuff. I really like this book. And I think now I will tell you just the criticism that this book has, which is when this book came out, and of course I did read this when it was originally released.
It was March 2020, like when the world was shutting down. I looked at that publication date.
Mm-hmm. The criticism was, why are there so many gay people? Because they were like, this is set in 1900. Why are there so many gay people? Rah! And it's like, just think about that question for like 5 more seconds. And you would have an answer if you had any sort of like,
Well, I mean, and you even have, besides like Matthew's dog is named Oscar Wilde. If anybody knows their literary history in regards to Oscar Wilde and the queer community, in regards to the history of the green carnation, like we know exactly it was 1900s. Just because it was 1900s doesn't mean that the queer community didn't exist. It's always existed.
Yeah, it's always existed. And it was just like such a weird criticism to have in like this point in time and like the time in the world. It was like, why? But then that criticism is consistent when you think of the dark artifices as well.
Yeah, I was going to say like Marie, just like everything that happens with the dark artifices. But do you see that commentary happening now? Because, again, you're probably a little bit more on, like, Shadowhunter talk than I am because I just try not to – I don't like spoilers. I'll keep on scrolling. So I don't know if that's still a criticism.
It was weird. Alec. It was weird with Alec because Alec was kind of set up, you could be, is he going to be the angsty friend that Clary's is it going to be a Jace love triangle? So it was a weird time. It was a weird time. But that was a huge criticism of this book. It's like, this is set in the 1800s. Why are you making everybody so fucking gay? It's like no, that's not. No. Next question, please. So next question for you, Jess, would be, do you like this book and what is a favorite part of this book for you?
Oh, that was one of my questions. I wanted to know what one of your favorite parts were and how many times that you've read it.
I'll answer you first. I've read this several times. I was trying to nail it down, probably about five or so.
And you've done it different ways. Like you've done audio, you've done co-reading, you've done it just the book, right?
Yeah. I've done a lot of it. Do I have a favorite part in this book? Yeah, it's the whispering room. It's the dance and the whispering room. It's the passion because, and this goes to the writing again, is I feel the passion between Cordelia and James. Like there are, when we have said on the podcast and other episodes too, or we just don't feel the spark between the characters. I feel it here. So when they feel the passion, it's like I'm there with them. And I just love that too. And especially these characters.
That's such a good point that you bring up because you can have other people write the same exact words, but it's not, you don't feel it from the characters. The words could be exactly the same. I have a couple of books that I'm thinking that we've discussed on the podcast immediately. And I'm just like, but no, it doesn't work. But this absolutely works.
What is yours?
The Whispering Room, soft moments with Matthew. I really, really am adoring Matthew. I'm liking the setup of I need a groveling James Herondale for the rest of his life for the bullshit that he's, we know the bracelet. I understand the bigger picture. We've gone into it a lot this episode. That being said, that doesn't mean I want when the spell is lifted, whatever happens at the end of, I want him to be making it up to her for the rest of their life, whether they stay married, whether they don't and they become friends, whatever it is. I want him to know every day and to be like, I am your slave.
Yes, that we need a groveling James Herondale. How hot would he be being just dog walked through that manor house?
Absolutely. I don't want her. And you know what? She's not the type of girl. I feel like some female main characters would be like, no, it's fine. Like we're equals. No, like, yes, we're equals, but you owe me.
That's right. Don't you daisy me.
Yeah.
That's our queen. I absolutely love it. I'm so glad that you enjoyed this book, Jess, and I'm so glad that you see the chaos that I led you on to get you here through the crazy order that we did.
I am so grateful for you and your patience this past week because I had collated all of the text all the reaction text that I sent you and I put it in a Google Doc and it wound up being 10 pages. So thank you.
They're Shadowhunter episodes. We all know that they are long, but we look forward to the next one.
So thanks for joining us this time. Please feel free to check us out at Instagram. We're at ACOFAE Podcast. We're also both on TikTok, ACOFAE Laura and ACOFAE Jessica. Thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to y'all soon. Bye.
Bye.